We welcome Tracy Sundlun, a guest with a remarkable resume. Tracy has been involved in the sport for over 45 years as a race founder and director, administrator, coach, active in all aspects, including road running, track and field, race walking, and on all levels, from youth to women, recreational to world class. The list of his roles, recognitions, and achievements literally goes on and on. One of his many distinguishing contributions was being at the forefront of the development of the sport during his time in New York from 1980 to 1997. During those years, Tracy grew the New York Metropolitan Congress from a single employee, Tracy himself, to a full-time paid staff that created, conducted, and promoted running through at least 70 events, which ranged from local participation to Olympic level track and field events, and gained significant sponsorship and support for running. I'm just scratching the surface, and we will get to some of Tracy's many other achievements, but let's start with the Metropolitan Athletics Congress, MAC for short, to which Tracy was also rightly inducted to their Officials Hall of Fame. Tracy, how did your work with MAC develop, change, and grow New York running and the community as a whole? And what was the effect of that both locally and nationally? Also, how did the pioneers of the New York running community and the people who'd come before you, also the New York Roadrunners Club, impact your work at MAC?
It brought back a bunch of memories.
Well, still good one, very good ones.
Well, for the listeners, what was the Metropolitan Athletics Congress is now the New York Association of USA Track and Field and the Long Island Association of USA Track and Field. The Athletics Congress was the name of the national federation up until I don't remember when, but and now it's called USA Track and Field. I'm hesitating. It was an interesting. The stories to get where we got were awfully interesting, and working with. I mean, it was a huge family back then. In many ways, my most significant mentor was Fred Lebo.
Hmm.
I looked at the sport. We weren't a governing body. We were a service organization. Um, what's missing? How do we fix it? I never put on any road races. Why? Because we had the New York Roadrunners Club. We had the Long Island Roadrunners Club. How do we support them in what they need? And yet at the same time, I said, look, I need help on the track. The track was the weak place.
Oh, mhm.
So we'll put on the track meets. And my goal I'm not sure the beginning, but my goal quickly became we needed to have a competition in the New York metropolitan area for everyone at every level and each in any discipline every weekend of the year.
Wow.
So there were a road race virtually every weekend of the year. Somebody's putting on one. But if you threw the hammer or the weight, the indoor version, well, somebody had to be able to do that, had to be able to have a place to do that. When I first got there, the only indoor facility that was ever used for open track meets was the Armory. And back then, it was a urine soaked flat wood floor.
Yeah.
and we ran around beds that we
It was a
moved.
homeless shelter. Yeah.
But before that, it wasn't a homeless shelter. It became a homeless shelter,
Mhm.
but it was just a flat
Right.
wood floor. Um, and yet there were other facilities. You know, Fordham had an indoor track. Pratt Institute had an indoor track. You know, West Point had an indoor track. We just had to open them up.
Okay.
We worked with the city, the Parks Department. We ultimately built or helped them build and refurbish 13 different facilities.
Oh, wow. And this brought children in, right? Because they weren't able to run the road races for the most part. Those were not for children. This brought in a whole
It was
different,
track and field. It was age group
yeah,
track and field. And,
yeah.
you know, we created school-based programs. Um, you don't have enough time to all talk about all
But
these
and
memories,
there's
but
more to talk about, but I guess what I'm getting at is,
I'm just,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
no. It's remarkable to me how strong a community that became. But because this is also a retrospective going way back, and I know that Fred, and then ironically or not so ironically, you brought a world-class track meet. Um, was it Randall's Island? Is that where that was? I think there was even a world record broken there. I'm not sure.
Well, the Roadrunners and Fred and I helped them created the New York Games, and that was up at Columbia.
Oh, Columbia.
And
Okay.
that was an invitational, what would be similar to a Diamond League or a Prefontaine Classic or something at that era. We did bring the national championships back to Randall's Island and Downing Stadium, which is now Icon Stadium, or the new version. We did that in 1991. The Olympic trials have been held there in 1936. It was but the things that we did getting ready for that meet, we were painting all of
Oh.
me and my team, we painted the hallways
You know,
of that of the stadium. No,
it was
just trying
soup
to
to
bring things
nuts.
back.
The irony, and not so ironic, is when you think back to the very beginning of what we're discussing here, which is Ted Corbett and that group of people. They had those similar kind of makeshift techniques about what they created and what they built, as did Fred, all done by hand, most of what he did. And it's kind of like I see you as a person who carried on the tradition, but took it to an entirely different level. And that was also thanks to the running boom of those years during which you were working. That didn't hurt.
Fred was instrumental. I mean, Alan Steinfeld was my vice president. I said, look, we're gonna there has to be somebody from the Roadrunners Club on my board at all times with the Metropolitan Athletics Congress. You know, this was Phil Greenwald was our treasurer. But there always had to be an institutional connection.
Uh-huh.
Um, but Fred was my inspiration. What did Fred do? He took the sport of road running to the people.
Yes.
I, my goal was to take track and field to the people,
Mhm. I see.
and entry fees, you name it, no matter what the age, no matter what the discipline, you could compete. We took it to you.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what drove us.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's why we created what is now the Nike Indoor and Outdoor National Championships and the New Balance Indoor and Outdoor National
Mhm.
Championships. It was the National Scholastic. The original in '84, it was the Pathmark
Oh, wow.
National Scholastic.
Yeah.
Um, but we looked around, and I had been a college track coach,
Yes.
and I knew that we made all the decisions pretty much by April 1.
Yeah.
From a scholarship standpoint, we were offering grants at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here I am in New York. April 1, you haven't even run outdoors yet.
Wow.
How our kids are competing against people that are running in Los Angeles outdoors. I've been doing it for 2 months already. How do you compare what somebody's running at UCLA to what somebody's running in the 168th Street Armory?
Yeah.
Back then, Clyde McPherson held the quarter-mile record in that facility. He was a 45.6 national team member from Adelphi.
Wow.
His The record in the Army was 49.6.
Wow.
So that meant if you ran 50 point in high school, you were a superstar, but it didn't even make a national list. So how do we expose our New York area kids so they weren't just getting their college opportunity based on what they did as a junior outdoors?
Right.
So that's why we created the National Indoor Championships, and we brought people from all over the country.
Yeah.
And 40 college coaches came and saw
Wow.
people they never heard of beat people that had heard of them. And
What inspired you to take what you knew was the case in the West Coast when you came to New York? Is it that you just saw the dearth of track and field and facilities? Or was that always your mission to grow that aspect of the sport, before anything else?
I don't think there was a mission to start with.
Okay.
There was, I saw an opportunity. I saw a lack. If we go back, when we first came to New York, I came from the University of Colorado, where I'd been the women's coach, and I got fired there. I actually got fired 4 times there, but I was rehired 3 times. Back then, there was a separate women's athletic director and a men's athletic director, and the women's athletic director came from the PE department. And, I came from USC to there, and I've been the men's assistant coach there. We'd won the NCAAs a couple of times. Um, and, I just saw things that we needed to do. Um, and the first time we had an argument was I was taking like 15 girls to a cross country event at Vail early in the season. And she said, "Well, why are you taking 15 people? There's only 7 that score."
Oh gosh.
So, well, what do you mean? Who knows what's going to happen? This is
Oh,
development,
boy.
blah, 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 blah. And he says, "You can't do it." I said, "No, we don't have to do that." And finally, she got very frustrated. She said, "Well, what do the men do?" "Oh, they're taking 24."
You know, you're perfect for New York. You really took after Fred and all the people who came before him because it was sort of that attitude of who says we can't. Um, let
It
me,
was, it was
yeah.
a fascinating, and you just saw these opportunities. I mean, the first time I got involved, Elizabeth Phillips was the president
Mm,
when I came here of the AAU, Metropolitan AAU, and I volunteered to be her women's track and field chairman. And that person put on uh, the track meets um, for the association, put on their association championships. That's pretty much the only thing they did. Well, the association championship indoors was held in January. I said, well, why would you hold an association championship in January when the national championships are the end of February, the beginning of March?
Too close together. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, the season hasn't started in January. Now you're
Oh,
having
I
a
see what you're
championship.
saying. I see what you're
So,
saying.
well, no, I mean,
Oh, I
so
thought it was.
it was just this sort of mindset that existed, and a set of no, we're going to do this thing differently, and everybody did pre-entries for for track meets. Why? Have them
Just put
show
it
up. They
together.
can enter on the side. But
Where does all this rank in terms of what's developed through what you did and up until now nationally? So did the big gap get closed between what people in other parts of the country knew how to do or could do?
we were our association was the first one. I was the first executive director of an association, the first employee of an association
Of any of them?
of any of them.
Wow. Okay.
And there became others, um, not everywhere um, at all, but I think things became more structured, more professionalized, around the country.
Hmm.
People of similar minds were opening up doors
Okay.
in their locales. Um, I don't I don't know enough about some of the specifics, but our circumstances here um, were different.
Yeah. Yeah.
The What really I think got me uniquely involved was the Jordache Atlantic City Marathon. Now people say, "What's that?" Well, that was the first
It's professional.
professional road race
Yeah.
in the fall of 1980, and our Warren Street team
Yeah.
went over to run against the Rutgers JV in a cross country meet on Saturday, and we got our asses handed to us. And all right, what do we do? Hugh Sweeney said, "Well, they got this marathon. They're giving away money tomorrow in Atlantic City. Let's go over there."
Hmm.
Well, everybody was absolutely paranoid of running. Of They were threatening to ban anybody who ran in this
Right.
open professional road race. Um, so everybody was afraid to run, all the good people. So we showed up and we won six. We won more than half the money.
Well, let me just preface with to introducing your coaching, just to show your bona fides. So from coaching at top colleges, this is all going to be read prepared, to your club team in New York, of the scores you have coached, over 100 men and women, as of the time I found this research, in various events have made their national teams. So all kinds of countries and federations. This is amazing, starting at the 1972 Munich Olympic Games, where you became the youngest person to coach at the Olympics. I love that. All of this is extraordinary, but you also touched and dealt with hundreds and hundreds of other runners, including recreational. So it branches out. So now I want to talk about you coaching one of the top clubs locally and beyond, and that's Warren Street Social and Athletic Club. So you coached during the running boom one of the most successful teams. So how did you recruit all these people? Why New York? What stands out? Kind of tell the story of your road running coaching experience. I don't even know how many people you ended up working with, frankly, but everyone, I mean, the level, when I think about it, maybe you can kind of summarize what the level of quality was. It's extraordinary.
Your husband was on that team and he was fifth in the Boston Marathon.
I know he was. I know he was, and he still has the same attitude of of rebellion that characterized what you people were doing.
Well, all right, the Warren Street Social and Athletic Club. And we never allowed it to be just the Warren Street Athletic Club.
Yeah.
It was not started by me. It was started by a group of Hugh Sweeney, Alan Silber, and Paul Fetcher. And their motto was, they said, sit down. I stood up. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Um, what were some of our other mottos? Um, and we
All
wore those
X-rated, I'm
T-shirts,
sure.
huh?
Yeah.
Um, and
But you
who
were a
recruited
serious coach.
our
It was
no, no,
serious.
no, 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 no. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But anybody is welcome,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you ask who recruited that? Our women recruited the men, and the men recruited the women. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
and we were one of the few clubs that were sort of at a competitive level combined. Um, and I brought a track and field, a collegiate, a high school, a competitive track and field background to the
Mm-hmm.
coaching,
Oh,
which was candidly, unheard of
huh.
at that time. I mean, in Central Park, we're doing plyometrics. They're jumping up and down on benches,
Wow.
as part of the warm up. They're doing sprints.
Hmm.
You know, I'm having them all run track meets. I mean, we're taking the same approach, you know, that we would do whether it was at USC or at Colorado,
Wow.
to whoever was showing up.
Mm-hmm.
One of your friends, Isabel Carmichael.
Yes.
Fine. She's a 320, 30-year old that shows up. Well, she wound up running 2:38 and finished ninth in
Yes.
the New York City Marathon,
Yeah.
um, in her mid 30s. Um, we wound up out of that group, 13 women qualified for the first Olympic trials. Um, it was, we had year-round practices twice a week, either in Central Park or up at Manhattan College,
Mm-hmm.
um, doing intervals and the like. Um,
Standard practice now, for,
Absolutely standard practice
yeah.
today.
Yes.
Um, and but at that point, long distance running, road running was, LSD, long slow
Yeah.
distance.
Yeah.
Um, and so we just I think we took a different approach. We took a bit of a iconic, what's a rebellious approach to it, just from a fun standpoint.
Uh-huh.
Um, it wasn't right for everybody. It wasn't the right personality for every kid. And that's, when you're looking at a college to go to, you're looking at a coach to go to, how does their approach mesh with your needs? I often tell kids, before they get into that college mode or
Yeah.
start listening to every pitch that's out there,
Mm-hmm.
no, go off by yourself in a room and decide who you are. Write down who you are. Do I need a big school? Do I need a little school? Do I need a religious school? Do I need co-ed dorms? Do I need one in the city? Do I need one in the country?
Yeah.
What's the major I need? Do I need big classes, little classes? And then you go to the coach and the team. Do I, as an athlete, need to be the queen bee, or do I need to be just a cog on a team?
Yeah.
But all these mindsets and all these, are critical to your ultimate long-term success.
Is there something about New York itself and the running community that already existed as a base that you think not necessarily allowed you, because you can be a rebel anywhere, but Was there something just about that thing of New York, the place where, if you can make it there and everything's possible, blah, blah, blah. Or do you think you could have done that anywhere? Or was it the population, the wealth of people, just kind of trying to fit it in a historical and sort of sociological sense? Because I think there is something. I mean, look what Fred managed to make in New York, and it had to be New York. Not necessarily the case for yours.
Well, I think it was, I never thought about the question that way, but I think New York and the geography
Mm,
and the closeness of things created both opportunities that wouldn't have existed other places,
interesting.
and it created demands that wouldn't exist other places.
Mm,
I mean, if I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, do I need to put on 70 events a year?
yeah.
Do I need, we wound up facilitating, changing, creating, building, rehabbing 13 different track and field and running venues.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are probably not 13 of them in Wyoming. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's all so, um, you know, the geography here. Shoot, even adding in Long Island, what? I've got furthest away I can go is in 2 hours by car. two
I,
hours by car.
yeah.
It's between San Diego and Los Angeles in two different worlds. So the closeness and the numbers of people, the transportation systems, they all
Yeah.
added to the strengths. All right, we often say your greatest strength, your greatest weakness is also your greatest strength.
Yeah.
People would say, how can you do all this running in a place where you got 1,000 people on in one building? No, that creates opportunities. Um,
Surprising to think of Central Park. Now you see thousands of people running, but doing those plyometrics on the bench, I mean, and there's also something about the background of the people you were dealing with as a coach because they were so kind of adept and remarkable in their professional lives. Most of them had a professional life. I think that created, it's not just the discipline they had to train, but it's the creativity, the ambition, the discovery. You had a lot of people discover, like you pointed out, Isabel, that, oh my goodness, I'm an athlete. I'm fast. I mean, that happened to a lot of people that you coached. A lot.
we were blessed, but it's an interesting. So one thing that I've always said, and it's a reason we created a particular program there. Um, Sports. If you just yell go, throw out the ball, and congratulate the winner, sports contribute nothing. They're worthless. But athletics, sports, as an academic and social tool,
Mm,
they are this amazing opportunity, this amazing tool. Think about this. Now, our age group, you got to high school by osmosis, at which point you went right or left, always based upon some interaction in a extracurricular activity or a sport.
mm,
Now, today, those positive intervention years have gotten earlier and earlier and earlier. And one of the weaknesses of the system is we don't have those extracurricular activities and those sports in junior high and elementary school. All right. You have to find them outside of it. But we actually created, a program with Community School District 2 and I think School District 5, where the New York Amateur Sports Alliance, something that we created with other local sports federations, um, we put on the school's sports programs,
Great.
for the elementary and junior high schools. Again, to create these opportunities. Um, I'm probably losing you a little bit, but the so when you say all these successful Wall Street people that are showing up because they ran high school track or they,
Mhm.
wanted to get a little faster, break 3 hours or something. Yeah, they did come with, they had already transcended
Yeah.
the sport and become successful. I mean, think about when I say sports are this marvelous academic and social tool, and track and field and running is probably the best of them, the easiest to coach.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right, Gloria, you're right. You were dead last again this week. But guess what? You ran faster this week than you did last week.
Yeah.
Keep coming to practice.
Wow. Okay.
You're right, Gloria. You were slower this week than last week, but you beat three people that you've never beaten before. So, how do we? It's an easy sport to give you
Achievements. Yeah.
objective milestones. You're a football lineman. You know, are you only successful if the team wins, or how do you objectively see improvement from week to
Sure.
week?
Sure.
Well, I still got beat a lot. Well, you got beat one bit less than last. It's harder to describe than stuff in track and field or
Well,
running.
let me go on because this was a
I
particular
know I
interest.
go off on.
No, no, it's all fascinating to me. I could talk about it forever, but I got to make sure that I get in what these days you're probably most known for is co-founding and directing the Rock and Roll Marathon series because it strikes me that this is a real carrying the torch moment from Fred because of the taking the sport to another level by combining it with entertainment. And so tell us how this now worldwide event came to be and what it is now, and include also its charitable contributions, because that's another thing that the marathon in New York didn't used to do, but now that's a huge aspect. So take it away because something about what you did in New York must have informed you co-founding and directing what became a really remarkable series of events. I don't know how many thousand people, million people. Can you give us a little picture of that event?
Smiling. Um, well, first off, the Rock and Roll Marathon Series, um, it isn't today what it was. When I left in 2016,
Mhm.
we had 29 of them in 16 states, Washington, D.C., and six other countries with 600,000 people a year. We'd had a few others that we started and dropped along the way. Well, in 2017, Ironman bought them.
Oh,
I actually thought that would be a good thing. Our previous uh, two owners or three owners had all been private equity sorts that were financial. So it was strategic. Here, all of a sudden, we had a strategic buyer. Unfortunately, the folks at Ironman, and they kept believing and they continue to double down, believe that you should market and manage what used to be 10 to 45,000 person, not sold out road races that are 96% jolly joggers, the same way you market and manage 2,000 person sold out Ironman that are 96% athletes. And it just doesn't work.
Well,
So now they got only five or six left with
got it.
maybe a
Tell
hundred
us
thousand
about the
people.
good old days because it's still the case in road races in most places that what you call the jolly jogger, is making up more and more of the population of people doing these events.
Well, one of the things, sorry, um, one of the things that our guiding principles was that your event was only as good as its weakest link. So before we even get discussed adding charity and the like, if you have a bad course, if you have a bad marketing plan, you have a bad charity program or a weak one, you know, a weak elite athlete program, weak marketing, each of these elements, that sets the limit of
Hmm.
where you can go. I mean, think about the Marine Corps Marathon. Is that not a spectacular event?
Sure.
30 some odd folks running around iconic places in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Does it get any consideration on the national or international scene? Not a twit. Why? They don't have an elite athlete program.
So you need a piece
You
of
got to have everything. It
everything.
doesn't even get coverage in the sports section there.
Yeah. I
So,
just never thought of that. I mean, but where do you know what the everything is? You know the everything is because you did all those years in New York and other places to
but
understand that's how you build. No?
well, I think if anybody's just looking at logic, what are elements of the sport? What are elements of other events?
Yeah.
You know, so when you take out the front of the race, the elite athlete program, all of a sudden there isn't the excitement that's there. Shoot,
So
we used to televise them. I can, but one of the pieces, we televise all of our events. One of the interesting things we did on a few occasions when we were gonna, it was gonna, we didn't have television or whatever. I mean, people see all the television cameras and they get excited. I mean, they're a part of something bigger and the like. Heck, we had a bunch of cameramen going around with fake cameras.
wow. I'm telling you, you belong to a community of visionary people. And see, this is the thing about New York Roadrunners, New York Roadrunners Club. I think you can clearly see from what you're saying that what it is and has always been has an element of that kind of genius because to you, you say it makes sense to you. It's not logical sense. It's a creative instinct, like a P.T. Barnum that puts together. I mean, your explanation of these things makes perfect logical sense to you, but I see it as a gem of a creativeness that going back to Ted Corbett and Kurt Steiner and Joe Kleinerman, these people had this, it's a combination, a little bit craziness, a little bit smarts, a little bit creativity, logic. Can you see that if you're standing on the outside looking in?
The answer is yes. So the reason that we started came up with the marathon thing. I'm just give you the
Rock
little
and
story,
roll. Yeah.
rock and roll. Okay. So I'm the junior partner with Tim Murphy in something called Elite Racing. It is what I left New York
Mm-hmm.
I left New York to create the rock and roll, but Elite Racing put on a series of high-end road races, not a marathon. Their most famous one was the Carlsbad 5000. Now, people called it the best non-marathon in the world. And we had like 26 world records over the time in America, or 11 world records, 26, whatever, a lot. All right. It was, and all the best athletes in the world came there. And, but it wasn't like a normal road race. What's a normal road race? The gun goes off, the fast guys go first, the slow guys go last. By the time the slow guys have finished, the fast guys have gone home, and the fans of the fast guys are the slow guys. We had a series of people's races, and then on a spectator friendly course after the people's races, we ran the 25 or 30 best men and women in the world on a spectator friendly course in front of several thousand of these people going crazy.
Wow.
So it was spectator running. And people came and said, my God, you got to do that for the marathon. And they kept coming back and saying that. And I said, yeah, that will be just brilliant. We're going to run
2 hours.
several thousand people
All day
in the
long.
marathon.
Yeah.
And after 6 hours, you're going to be lying around dead in a parking lot. And now we're going to take the best ones, and they're going to run around on a spectator friendly course for 2 hours in the middle of them. No, that's not going to work. It doesn't work. But, and at this point, it's 1998. It just dawned on me. All right, Boston's about to be 100 years old. New York, and starts on a Monday, on a holiday at noon. New York starts at 11 o'clock on a Sunday. It's 25 years old. They've got this institutional, it's an event.
Yeah.
How are we going to get anybody to come? We're going to have to start at 7 o'clock in the morning. How's anybody going to get anybody to come out and watch running at dark 30?
Yeah.
And I said, well, maybe they'd come out and listen to music.
Okay. There you go.
And then I said, or we said, it's not me. I said, all right, well, if we have a band at every mile, okay, we have to go create our crowd that New York and Boston have developed over all these years. The aid station, we'll have them be themed. So everybody makes a thing about their aid station. The mile marker will be a different location. And then a quarter mile after the aid station, we'll have a high school cheerleading group. Mm-hmm. They didn't get their $250 for showing up until they picked up all the cups between them and and their water station. But all of a sudden now, every quarter mile, we had created a crowd. So this was the concept of it. And then we say, well, all right, what sort of music should it be? Classical, no. Jazz, no. This rock and roll. Yeah, the rock and roll will work. And then the question was, well, what do we call this? And we want to create, like Rock and Carlsbad, one of the world's great events. And Tim Murphy, he said, well, we'll call it the Rock and Roll Marathon.
Perfect.
And everybody said, that is the stupidest idea. Why would you ever do that? It's not world class. It's dorky, and we had 3 separate meetings of the sort of staff. to come up with a better name, and finally we gave up.
Yeah.
Now remember, back then nobody put on more than one marathon in a year. Nobody put on events outside of where they lived, and there weren't any brands. All we intended to do to start with was to create a marathon in San Diego. We had no expectation of putting them anywhere else. Well, and the charity part. So, Leukemia Society of America, at that time, not the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and not whatever they call themselves now, um, they came and said, we would like to be your official national charity. And we would like to bring 1,000 people from, 20 of the 23 of our chapters. And that sounded pretty good to all of us. Tim said, are you kidding me? No way. Silence. What do you mean, Tim? Our goal, mind you, we wanted to be the largest first-time running event in history. We wanted to beat Los Angeles Marathon and have 8,500 people. They had 7,500. So 1,000 people, that's a great idea. And they were in team and training. He says, wait, you want to be my national charity, and yet you're only going to bring people from 23 of your 60 chapters? Are you kidding me? Forget it. You have to bring 4,000 from you have to commit to bringing 4,000 people from
Oh, yeah.
all of your chapters. We were all silent. A day later, they came back and said, okay, what was Tim's thinking? Every one of those chapters has a PR agency
Oh, oh my goodness.
out recruiting.
You
In
are,
the end, we got 5,500 team and training people. Oh, he had no idea of what the economics of that were. All right. That essentially somebody at that point committed to raising $3,500.
right.
The team and training paid for their room and their travel, basically $800 a person. And so, we're talking over $2.5 million right off the bat. And he didn't even think those numbers. As it is, we changed the face of leukemia and
Yeah.
lymphoma in year one, and the whole charity world. Fred, we had Alan Steinfeld come out
Yeah.
to help us. Because again, we didn't put on a marathon before. This is,
Yeah.
and yeah, the charity thing started with us.
I tell you,
It,
you're a remarkable person to carry the torch. And our time is running out, but where do you stand now? Are you an advisor? Are you still, I know you have a company, so it's a consulting. Yeah?
I'm a terrible consultant. All these years, people call and I give them whatever answers that they ask for. Well, shoot, now I'm supposed to be a consultant. I'm supposed to charge them for that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how to charge people very well.
You and Fred, honestly, you are cut from the same cloth. Tracy, it's been wonderful and such a wealth and a richness, and I'm very grateful, as I'm sure that Gary Corbett and his organization are. So thank you so
Well,
much.
you sent just doing the trying to look back,
Yeah.
look at the results of what our kids did and how
Hmm.
it grew athletically. That was just fascinating to get those memories back, whether
Yeah.
it's Pat Peterson, whether it's
Yes.
Isabel Kiki Swigert,
Right.
I mean, Elaine Kirchin, the whole list, right?
Hmm.
But you also sent me this um, list of Roadrunners Club, New York Association people. And goddamn,
Yeah.
so many great memories of people that contributed so much to the sport. People on the outside don't recognize how important all these people they don't know who they are.
But I'm telling you, I swear to this day of the many forms of employment that I've had, I will tell you that I never loved a job more and felt as strongly as you do for a whole slew of reasons. It's the people, the place. It was working for the Roadrunners Club as a career was the greatest job I've ever had. And I can testify that everything you say and have done is just an absolute exclamation mark on that. I mean, looking over your resume, you know, you've really done a wonderful job to this point, and I hope it continues. And I jumped some of those benches as a guest, so I know what you mean. Thank you, Tracy.
Well, you know, we only got halfway through some of the stories, but the you talk about it being working at the Roadrunners Club, being a highlight. I've never worked a day in my life.
Oh,
My avocation became my occupation.
yes.
And when we started in the coaching thing, we started in the, I mean, shoot, the executive director position didn't exist. The Metropolitan Police, it didn't exist anywhere. Road running as a for-profit event didn't exist.
Yeah.
We were the first. Elite Racing was the first for-profit organizer of road races.
Hmm.
But it just made sense, and it was our passion, and you just took one step to the next, and you made mistakes, and you just figured it out. And so, a kid, dream, don't go to work.
Yeah.
Go do your passion.
Well, you have
Uh,
done it in spades, and I'm very grateful. I'm thrilled. I think you are a tremendous testimony to the history of what was built, what you built, had more than a hand, had a hand everywhere, and very impressive. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to talk about more. I want to talk about more, but okay.
Okay,
This
well,
is very
you
cool.
know, Sarah has like these time limits, and maybe we can do a part two. But
This is so much
let's
fun.
end the recording